So Patrick, do we, do we describe this for everybody, Rob?
What?
You
What?
describe it. You describe it. I
What?
do enough talking.
For what?
I think any car's dead in iRacing. I think it's gone.
Oh, it's definitely. I agree. It's not going to survive much. I still think we'll find opportunities to race it, just not as fruitful as before. Some of them just want to like make. What's the thing? Like that guy wanted to make like dolls out of Tyler's hair, but then there's just other guys who are just like. He did. He would say weird things to Tyler, man. Like he was a strange guy. And then like other guys would just show up out of nowhere. He's like,
I
"Oh,
just need to-
we never met you? Sure, come race this 24 with us." And then you just jump in the car and wreck us out in a lap and be like, "Okay, never see you again."
Yeah, that
Like,
was
okay. Well, better luck next year, I guess.
that was the guy from.
The Palace of Speed. The chaos early on in this race.
Good evening, everybody, or afternoon, depending on where you are in the world, and welcome along to the Nurburgring Nordschleife, or more specifically, the Touristenfahrten version of this circuit. I am Thompson. Alongside me this evening is Randall McGrew for the Spec-5 World Tour race, and Randall, MX-5's very, very exciting cars to watch go around a racetrack, and no greater racetrack in this world than the Nurburgring Nordschleife.
You know, normally I'm not a fan of slower cars on big tracks, but the Nordschleife is just such a special place, and the MX-5 just feels right at home here. Should be a great race as long as everybody can keep their noses clean. we don't have a big wreck in one of the tighter areas of the track, we should be able to see a good finish with a nice pack at the front.
So, we've got some points for you before we move on. This is your Pro Championship standings. These are your Pro Championship standings, I should say. For Team Esport Racer is Mitchell Peak leading the way with 692 points into the 9th round of the season. Mike Dam is in second for Orion Race Team. Ronnie Coase, Odisa Adams Jr. and Ruth Cumbra round out the top 5. All of them separated by just around 40 points there at the top, which is certainly very impressive indeed. Ken Coppelin is on the top of the open standings by 13 points from Jose Gonzalez for Not a Team, hashtag. And then for Must Mint Racing, it's Andrew Goshik in the 50 car with Andrew Gilliland in 4th for Ace Motorsports. Paolo Coimbra is a little bit further back in the 65 car, only on the 274 points. He rounds out the top 5. So Randall, it appears that, well, at the top of those pro standings, it's very much Mitchell Peak, who is pretty strong so far this season. A very, very fast driver, and expecting maybe more of the same from him today, though he does currently, without setting a lap, sit down in 6th.
Yeah, he's the defending champion of this series, and he's had another great season. We've seen that lead grow a little bit larger over the past couple weeks, and the shakeup in the open class is the big story, with Andrew Kosick and Andrew Gilliland both dropping down. Now that some drops have been calculated, Ken Copeland is showing up and has got a lot of speed, and he was really quick in practice too. I was keeping an eye on him. So that open class is a 4-way fight right now, but this could be a race that really decides the championship. This is one of those tracks that we might see an open class driver even on the overall podium. That you will have a lot of people that specialize in the Nürburgring specifically, and that's a lot of times what you see. The difference between the open and the pro class drivers is sometimes the open class drivers are really quick at certain tracks and not as quick at other tracks. And this will probably be one of those tracks we're going to see a couple of open guys are extremely quick.
Yeah, absolutely. And, well, only 4 rounds left of the season after this one. Phillip Island, Red Bull Ring, Virginia, and then Sebring, the final one being a 90-minute endurance race. So the Nürburgring, probably one of those circuits where, as you said, Randall, those guys can make up that time, make up those gaps compared to the others. We're having a look at Ken Coppelin right now, heading up through into the second of the carousels. And then finally we'll go onto the Dottinger Hour Straight, switching over to Jerry Di Piero, one of the admins of this league, running through Sector 2. Cross Series League Racing is an admin. I apologise. He's just a racer over here. Thank you, Adam, for the information. But Randall, 25 minutes this qualifying session. And that's not a lot of time actually to set a clean lap on the Nürburgring, especially given the nature of this 73-turn circuit. You can quite easily find yourself messing up, having to do a whole other outlap, which can take another 10 minutes, and before you know it, your qualifying's all but over.
That's right, and it's a 8-minute or just past 8-minute lap, so 25 minutes, not long enough to get all 4 laps in. What normally you would see in a GT car, that the driver would reset after the first lap and take another flyer with fresh tires. But these cars take a little bit of time to warm up, so that second lap is actually going to be faster typically. So we're on board now with Ken Copeland, and we're gonna do an 8-minute lap with Ken here, or we're gonna try to. We'll see if he can hold it together for an entire lap as he's coming through the final corner now. Gets very close to that barrier, comes across the start-finish line. You don't really see it there, but it's very close after that corner. He's going to hang it all the way to the right, go all the way down, probably to first gear here. Maybe, sounds like he stayed in second gear, get it tight there through that very, very tricky left-hander for turn 1. And you're just going to open up this entry here. Should be easily flat once the tires are warm. You get touches a little bit of curb. You normally want to stay away from those bigger curves. I mean, our first real braking zone here. Down to second gear. And just trying to straighten out these curves as much as possible. He's going to enter here in third gear and then drop it down to second gear as it gets closer to the apex. Try to get a good run off and keep it in second gear here. You want to get onto that flat top of the curbing a little bit, just like he did there, and then get onto that power as early as possible. One of your first big full throttle sections here in this car, even longer, because they can take this double right-hander at the top of the hill flat out. We should not hear him lift here. Just barely turning the wheel, guiding the car more than turning it. A little bit of a safety lift there, it sounds like, but he's not going to lose much speed from that. Going to wait to upshift until he gets to the top of this crest here. It should go to fifth gear right there as it comes clear of the crest. Keep that momentum going as much as possible. And then the big scary sweeper, easily flat in these cars. Really got to keep it all the way pinned over because we have a very slow second gear corner. A really good passing opportunity here. A lot of people will outbrake themselves and end up in the gravel there. It's a good place to overtake somebody. And then the run down the hill into Adenauer Forest. One of the scarier places on the track. If somebody at the front of the pack in the race gets it wrong here, it is going to be massive. There is nowhere to run. A bit of a noob trap here at the top of the hill. You got to slow the car down, and then there's a much bigger braking zone. You got to get that car woe down for the little slow complex here at the top of the hill, going through it in first gear. Sometimes you can run it in second gear if you line it up just right, but oftentimes you need that first gear to get that rotation down. And then as we come across the top of the hill here, you're just going to try to straighten out these corners as much as possible. You'll have a little bit of a lift here going through this corner. You just hear him breathing off the throttle, getting over to the grass, and then hard onto the brakes, down to second gear for this tight left-right combo. Back up to third gear. And he's going to quickly be down to second gear for this double apex right-hander. You kind of miss the first one and hit that second one and keep it nice and tight on exit. The track narrows out, so it's very easy to get wrong, straightening out these S's. And then we come to one of the famous corners, miss, hit, miss, where you miss the first apex, get that second one, miss the third one, get down to that throttle early. Setting up on the left-hand side of the track, and a very tricky section of the track here, especially on cold tires. Watch this spot on lap one. There's definitely going to be some trouble here. The slowest portion of the track, you got all the way down to first gear into that. The run across the bridge here, down to third gear, a very tricky corner. You see the car really wants to oversteer on entry with the brake. You got to be very delicate with the brakes in this car. It really wants to step out on you. You're trying to keep that momentum going as much as possible. These cars are all about momentum. A quick run down here to the most important corner on the track, Bergwerk. You need to get this absolutely right to have a good lap time. You want to get back to that throttle early, get to the apex just a touch early. You had to lift a little bit more, then got back to the throttle. Every little bit you get wrong there is a debt that gets collected all the way up this climb on this, not straightaway, but this entire thing is flat out. You'll see a lot of slipstreaming here, maybe some passes for position, but normally people will bide their time here, save a little bit of fuel, and save the pass for the big straightaway at the end of the lap. It's a long run up the hill. Normally you don't see them get into fifth gear. Maybe if they're drafting, they'll go up to fifth gear, but they quickly approach Courage Corner, and it is easily flat out in an MX-5. You hear just a bit of a safety lift. He didn't really need it. He had plenty of room there on the outside to drift out further. Then get back over to the left-hand side of the track, look for that curbing, another flat-out corner, and then a big braking moment coming up here, going to go all the way down to second gear. He actually goes down to first gear to get that rotation going, but quickly back up to second gear before he even gets all the way out of the corner, and then to the famous carousel. You're going to see some people doing this in second gear and some people doing it in third gear. He's going to really bomb it in there and try to ride that bottom lip as much as possible, get back to the throttle. Sounded like he went to third there and then decided to come back down to second. So struggling a little bit on the exit there, lost a little bit of time. Another long climb up the hill here. A very quick left-hander. Normally it's a bit of a brake and downshift in a GT car, but in these MX-5s, it's really just a bit of a lift. Then onto the brakes for the tight right-hander that follows. And then we get to one of the trickier sections of the track. It's a rhythm section with many S's. The first section is a little bit more open. You have a little bit more freedom with the curbs as you see him riding over the pavers there. And then the second section is almost a carbon copy of the first one, but it's just a little bit tighter. and it comes down and ends at the famous YouTube corner. You're gonna see him get out here onto the exit curbing, and this is where a lot of the YouTubers sit up there on the berm watching cars coming through and sometimes run off into the gravel here as they get that corner all wrong. Back down to second gear for the left-hander as he comes across the top of this crest here, back up to third gear, and the run down to the drop. This big drop is not really a big deal in these cars, but some other cars that run much lower to the ground struggle with this section. You see easily flat across the jump, and it gets just a little fast there, has to get onto the brake and runs a little wide through the double right-hander that follows, has to get down to third gear, and then a very, very, very quick section of changing elevation S's where you have to know where the curbs are before you get to them because you won't see them half the time. Build up a lot of speed here. It's going to be a quick little clip on the brakes down the fourth gear. Oh, he's going to stay in fifth, but then he's going to come down the third gear for this run to the little carousel. Another corner that's easy to get wrong. Stay in third gear here at just a tap of the brake to get it to turn in, and then once you're into that banking, you want to get back to the throttle as quickly as possible. A very important corner here, easily flat in the MX-5, and then maybe a little bit of a breathe off the throttle and an upshift to fourth gear to get the car to rotate. You want to get onto that throttle as much as possible. Use all that track width for this huge straightaway down Dottinger Hoa, and he is absolutely flying right now. 120 miles an hour in an MX-5. Finally reaches fifth gear. This is all downhill, so he's building up momentum. You see there's a bit of a rise ahead and then an even sharper downhill after that rise. This is where you're going to see most of the passes for position. They're going to draft and get past each other, and then the car that just got past is going to draft its way back again. You're going to see a lot of 2 wide, 3 wides as we see Mike Dam dip under 8 minutes. Absolutely flying. The last section of the track here, it gets very narrow very quickly, especially with these curves. You really need to have yourself sorted out in the traffic before you get to this point. He's going to brake as late as possible, past the dark patch, all the way almost to the corner before he gets on the brakes, down to second gear. You want to get up onto that curb as much as you can, then keep it over to the left, and get as close as you can to this barrier without touching it, just like he did there to finish your lap.
Thank you very much, Randall. Wonderful track guide, talking for 8 minutes straight, a minute 3.6, all of that, and he's 0.3 of a second off of his fastest time, but it is competitive at the top. Williams on top, 7:58.8, the second driver to go below that 8-minute mark. Then Dam in second position, 7:59.2, only 0.4 of a second below the pole position, with Hibbett sitting in third, 1.2 seconds off. Top 3 separated over the course of 73 turns and about 20 kilometers by just 1.2 seconds. We have got Jerry Di Piero in the interview waiting room and now in the main booth. Jerry, you're going to be driving this evening, sitting down in 16th at the moment and in the pits. Nürburgring is a unique challenge. How are you coping at the moment?
Not very good. Went off track already twice. So I'm going to try to Sunday drive this baby. That's all I'm going to tell you. If they want to pass me, they can pass me. I'm going to try not to go off track. That's my goal today.
Hey, Jerry. Adam Thompson here in the production booth. As you know, we know each other pretty well. And, I always mention greasing up those wheelchair bearings before you go out to race me, because you gotta get any advantage you can with your age. But maybe you decided to lay off the grease for this track if you want to just try to keep it more consistent.
Yeah, off the grease and on the alcohol. That's what I got to do. Yeah, it's going to be tough no matter what. No matter how good you are here. It's going to be tough.
I can tell you it's significantly more tough with alcohol.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Jerry, for joining us.
Thank you.
There you go, Jerry Di Piero on the booze, apparently, as well as on the ring, which is an interesting strategy to win an MX-5 race. We're looking at Ken Coppelin once again, who we saw just go through that previous lap, looking for a third consecutive hot lap here on the open pole position, quite comfortably at the moment. Gonzalez behind him by a couple of seconds with an 0.8, so 3 seconds between the top two in that open category. We've got 5 minutes left of this qualifying session, which would dictate that this should be Ken's final lap. Let's have a look at Odis Adams Jr. He's heading around sector 1 right now, up into 5 kilometre mark. Swooping left-hander. As I'm hearing, we will get a word from Odis a little bit later on as he goes up to the back straight, but right now on a flying lap, currently sitting down in 8th position. Herald has gone into 12th position. That's 806.6 for that. That jumps him up ahead of Gonzalez for that second place in the open category. There he is, looking for a final lap. We should actually here, Randall, get about a 30-minute session in, because the guys will finish their laps halfway through. Well, they'll only be halfway through the laps, I should say, when the 25-minute mark has hit.
Actually, I believe for lone qualifying, it will end as soon as that 25-minute mark hits. So I don't think we'll see Mr. Harrell finish this lap. I think if you're further behind than Otis Adams, I don't think you're going to be finishing this lap. Now, if it was open qualifying, it does run a little bit longer, but pretty sure for closed qualifying, it's going to cut off right at that 25 minutes, whether you finished or not.
I think the sim might give it a little bit of leeway if you're in that last mini sector, potentially. But actually, come to think of it, given what we've seen in AMS this season, I think you might actually be right there. This is Odis Adams Jr. heading up through Miss Hit Miss, as Randall calls it. And up into one of the hairpins on this circuit. Double right-hander, double left-hander.
Yeah, I could not remember the name of it for the life of me, but you saw as he came from the right-hander into the left-hander, the rear end really wanted to keep going to the left, so he had to fight the wheel. It's very, very tricky, especially on cold tires in this car, to get that corner right. Otis did a really good job of keeping it wrangled, but watch, like I said during the lap guide, watch that spot during lap 1, because it's going to be probably pretty crazy.
Definitely will. It's here we see Odis Adams Jr. actually on a very good lap, using all of the track, saying to me this potentially is a driver to keep an eye on to jump up the order if he is indeed able to complete this lap. He's got a couple of minutes plus a little bit of leeway maybe to try and do it. Through he swoops once more, 11-kilometre mark on the right-hand side, almost onto the grass as he turns into the slight kink up this straight, not straight.
We have 2 drivers under 8 minutes is very impressive. It's so easy to lose time around this track with so many corners. You just get one wrong, and if you get a bad one wrong, like Bergwerk, you have this entire straightaway to pay the price for it. So,
hey, Randall, Adam Thompson here again. Have we seen Dan Williams in a Spec-5 race before?
You beat me to the punch. I was just going to say, I think Daniel Williams is a newcomer to the league, probably paid the entry fee just to race at Nurburgring, and we can see why, as he's 4/10 faster than the always quick Mike Dam. Now, 4/10 around here is not a very big gap at all. 4/10 over an 8-minute lap is not very much speed difference at all. So he's not going to run away with anything. In fact, as long as you can maintain contact with the draft, you can be much slower than the leaders and still have a chance at the end. Now, got to keep that nose clean. You got to stay out of trouble without losing contact with that draft. That's the hard part.
Lee Martin has jumped up into 15th position with his first, it actually appears, really representative lap of the day. Just saw him jump up onto the timing screen. That makes him the 20th driver to have set a lap in this session, though I suspect actually that John Casey's lap is not quite representative of where he might be, as with Jerry DiPiero, who we know went off of the circuit. The people not on your timing screen actually at the moment, there are quite a few of them. Rue Coimbra, Gareth Brocklesby, who is on the circuit, as is Tom Afton, Charles Vaccaro, I apologise, Andrew Gilliland, Sean Rees and Edgar Sancinelli are not on the track right now, so they will not be qualifying in this session. I believe we're about to drag in one of the drivers as Coates goes into second position, 7:59.0, and that is the checker flag for the qualifying. Odis Adams, welcome to the box, how did you feel about your qualifying session?
Nah, it was terrible for me. I got a 1X on my first lap and reset and didn't think about, I'm going to be cold tires again, and wrecked on cold tires, so only got one bad lap in.
And well, in terms of the race, there's we've got to be quite fast on this interview, I'm afraid. But in terms of the race, you're starting 8th. Do you think there's a chance for a podium here, given how attritional we expect this to be?
Maybe if I can stay alive. I tend to wreck here, so hope I can keep it going.
Well, Odis, thank you very much for joining us. I'm afraid we can't interview you for long, so we're about to get going. But good luck for the race.
Yep, thanks, guys.
Thank you, Odis Adams Jr. Now, Randall, if you do the pleasure of taking us through the grid.
I absolutely will. 7:58.883 is your pole time for the newcomer, Daniel Williams. Starting alongside of him, Michael Coates set a fast lap. So we now have three drivers under the 8-minute mark. On the inside of row 2, Mike Dam is going to be alongside the always quick Camden Hibbett. Ronnie Coates in 5th. Mitchell Peak, your points leader in the open class, in 6th place. Ken Copeland, your points leader in the open class and pole sitter for the open class, is starting in P7 alongside Otis Adams Jr. Eugenio Pulici, who was very quick in practice, starting in 9th. Jordy Fike in 10th. Sean Hayes starting in 11th. Simon Foweather in 12th position. Expect to see him making moves early to get up towards the front of the field. Orlando Harrell, 6 spots back from his closest open competition, ahead of him in 2nd place in the open class, starting P13. 14th, Jose Gonzalez. Lee Martin starting 15th. Brian Zabelski in 16th. Paulo Coimbra in 17th. Andy Kosick in 18th. Jerry DiPiero starting 19th. John Casey starting in 20th. Rui Coimbra with no time set, 21st. Tom Athan in 22nd with no time set. Gareth Brocklesby in 23rd. And I'm hearing now that Daniel Williams, our pole sitter, did not grid. So Gareth Brocklesby 23rd, Sean Ruiz 24th, Edgar Sancinelli in 25th, Charles Vaccaro in 26th, and bringing up the rear, Andrew Gilliland in 27th.
Interesting from Daniel Williams, whether that is an intended yet unorthodox strategy, not too sure. It might, presumably, will go back out onto the circuit in a few moments' time, but the lights are out on the Porsche safety car. It's going to put us in control of the field with Mike Dam, the 93 car, on that outside line. It will be the inside into turn 1 here at this Nurburgring Nordschleife layout. Now let's keep an eye on this race start. It does indeed look like we're going, and it is almost green flag here at the Nürburgring. The 93 car in the orange on the inside line for turn 1, and it is green flag running at the Nürburgring. 45 minutes ahead of us, and on the inside, Coates looking to apply the pressure early on down into turn 1, swooping around the inside goes Mike Dam, and I think he might just hold on to what has turned into his whole position as he does through into turn 3, and now up into the downhill section of this racetrack. Everyone pretty line of stern for the time being. Ken Copeland has made up a position early on in this race. That puts him into 6th. He's still in the open class lead, obviously quite comfortably so. There's been one issue at the start of this race, and it's John Casey who's had a crash, Randall.
John Casey here coming through the final corner at the start of the race. The run down to turn 1, I'm not exactly sure what happened here. Maybe he was just trying to get out of the way. He looks very slow coming into the first corner, and a little bit of contact there. That didn't look very severe at all. Then he ended up spinning. So he's got a gap ahead of him now, but he's got plenty of room and a clean windshield to make up some time in.
Going to be a little bit slipstream here, I would suspect, from Michael Coates as he tries to apply pressure to this 93 car. There he is, virtually bump drafting as they go down into the hairpin, the first real hairpin. There's side-by-side action further back as here is Hibbett in the 32 car on the outside, and here he goes, and my word, it's so close. They're 4 wide down into the hairpin. They go down the hill, 32 car to the inside. Here goes Camden Hibbett trying to make a move on Roy Coates down into this hairpin as he does. Both of them avoiding the gravel, and Hibbett into the podium running. Well, there might just be a counter-attack here from Coates. To the outside he goes, potentially no, stays behind for the time being, as does this battle at the lead. 2:13 behind the number 93, only by 1/10 of a second as they barrel down through up to the chicane.
It's a long race. We see some people making moves early. Camden Hibbett wanted to get that move done in Arnberg before the run through Adenauer Forest because there's just no room to make any moves there, and he felt like he had the speed. Ronnie Coates playing the long game here. Not surprising. We've seen this out of him a lot. Probably saving fuel already and looking to that pit stop.
That single pit stop that we are expecting them to make over the course of this 45-minute race. 2 minutes into it, lap 1 of what I'm assuming is going to be about 7 here at this circuit. Here is Geordie Fike. He's started in the midfield, is in 9th. Randall saying 6 potentially. It all depends on the pace of the leaders, of course, Randall.
Yeah, their pace, they have about 5.7 or 5.8 laps in 45 minutes, so that'll round off to 6. Pit window, they need 2 laps of fuel, so the pit window will open at the end of lap 2, and they have through lap 4 to get that pit stop done. They start with about 4.7 laps of fuel. We see a little bit of issue there. So it looks like we had an issue with John Casey, but we were looking at the race with Sean Hayes and a little bit of contact there. See John Casey runs a little bit wide there at the top of the hill. And now we're on board with Jerry DiPiero coming through that section. I told you to watch lap 1. We have cars all over the place. Andrew Kosick there is off. There's a few people there having issues, and then we're going to be on board here with Andrew Kosick. We're going to see him lose it there at the 154. I believe that was in the background. This corner is so hard to get right on cold tires.
I love the little smirk you did there, Randall. It's almost like I told you so. But, well, it did happen, didn't it? A little bit of an accident on lap 1. This is the battle for the lead of the race. Early running yet and through into a very fast section of the racetrack. Completely flat here, practically up into the carousel. It's Mike Dam, the lead of this race, the leader of this race, as he has been since the start. Daniel Williams is still out of this race. He didn't take the start despite starting, supposed to be starting on the pole. This is Michael Coates trying to attack Mike Dam as they go through into the left-hander. Hard braking zone coming up for these MX-5 cars, and it's 800th of a second. They're practically bump drafting each other through. Watch Camden Hibbett. He's going to try and make a move soon, particularly if these guys start to trip over each other. But their next overtaking opportunity perhaps is up into the carousel, which is what we're having a look at now. There's been a slight bit of a mistake from Coates. That might just allow Hibbett to have a look at him. Through into the carousel they go, throwing the cars into there. But it stays line of stern.
Yeah, you really got to hand it to Michael Coates, pushing Mike Dam all the way up that climb up the hill. All as twisty as it is, even though it's flat out, he had basically no vision of it, and he was still able to hit his marks and not crash the car. And we're seeing him chase Mike Dam now, trying to keep that pressure on him. Mike Dam's pretty cool customer, though, up there in the lead. I won't expect him to make any mistakes as we quickly look back at Camden Hibbett behind. So we have a nice lead pack develop here. This first time when they get to the back straight, it's going to be very, very exciting to see how many people go for moves and how many cars wide they get down that huge wide straightaway.
Such a better section for Michael Coates, who is pushing Mike Dam all the way through here. Here they go now into the right-hander. Just breaking that slight little bit later. Almost onto the grass goes Mike Dam. He's looking a little bit untidy at the moment. Michael Coates keeping it gathered, keeping it calm, and keeping it sensible most of all. And right now he looks to be that little bit faster than Mike Dam. But where do you make the move? Do you wait for the dotting hour, or do you try and find a little bit of a more audacious place to try and find your way past?
Right now, we see Geordie Fike has had an issue here coming up after YouTube corner. It's a very tricky corner that where you see that 166 board is that second gear left-hander, and it can really come out and bite you sometimes. Looks like maybe he just got up on, nope, didn't even quite get the curb, just carried a little bit too much speed in there. Maybe the rear tire is not quite up to temperature yet. got a little bit of oversteer and lost it, as we see the 149 losing some spots here. Lee Martin struggling. It looks like he's got it back together, and the second pack is going to stay somewhat cohesive. No, actually, he has a lot of issues there. Gets onto the curb, collects Tom Athan, and then rolls back into the racing line. We see Jerry DiPiero, Andrew Kosick, and Andrew Kosick loses it, getting into the grass afterwards. Man, one mistake can turn into a lot of mistakes for other drivers in the tight confines of the green hell. As right now we have, it looks like a 5 or 6 car pack up here, really a 3-car breakaway in the front, but once these three start passing each other, expect the rest of this group to close up.
It might be the pass then, as Michael Coates just behind. Camden Hibbett trying to get involved as well. When do you pull out? He might need Camden to try and push him through here. Mike Dam in the lead of the race, as he has been for all of this first 7.5 minutes of racing. Here is the bumper cam, as little help as it gives us, but it does show you how close these cars are. Michael Coates trying to find a way through. It's going to have to be done on the brakes. He sort of ran out of straight at the moment. Let's see if he does go for a slightly audacious move. Camden Hibbett there looking. He goes to make him. And the back of someone is off. And I think that might be Ronnie Coates. It is Ronnie Coates. He's able to drift it back onto the circuit. My word, Ronnie Coates. And the most nervous party in all of that was probably Ken Copeland, who has driven superbly for his amateur class, pro class, open class lead, I should say. And it almost evaporated.
You'll have to forgive me while I pick my jaw up off the floor. It looks like Ronnie Coates got a little bit of a bump draft here at the wrong time from Mitchell Peak, and it just sent him out into the grass, and he grazes the wall there. It doesn't look like he takes much damage and manages to corral the car and then slides back onto the track right there in front of Otis Adams and Ken Copeland. Slots right in like nothing happened and continues on his way.
Continues on his way. He does, and I don't think he wants to admit anything happened here, as there's been a slight breakaway at the lead of this race. In fact, I think Michael Coates is a little bit slow, because 0.6 of a second is the gap now between himself and Mike Dam, and Camden Hibbett is starting to look very racy indeed as they go up into Flugplatz right-hander, just about flat out if you have the bravery to go flat out following a car through there. And Camden Hibbett, as they now finally get themselves back up and close to Mike Dam, but Camden Hibbett definitely looking like he wants to make this move. Gets a little bit greedy onto the curb. That might just inhibit him, as here we go bump drafting once more, and Hibbett goes to the outside left, very wide, up into the left-hander, and now down into the hairpin. It's Hibbett on the outside, got to second position. Can he get to first? Brakes as late as he dares, but in the end has to slot in behind. That was a brave move, but it was done so well.
Only a kind of move you'll see in an MX-5, because any other car they're so wide that on the outside it's almost certainly doom for the outside driver. So these narrow cars able to get a little bit more action out of this track than you would see in other types of racing. Camden Hibbett with a very strong outside move. Now keep your eye on Mike Dam here. He's a cagey driver. Seen a lot of tricks from this guy. We always watch him use every single inch of the track, and he may even try to use a little bit extra just to try to bait the cars behind him into running a little bit wide and trying to shake some of this competition and drive his way to an easy win. But right now we have a 3-car breakaway for the lead.
We do. And it's an interesting battle developing. Camden Hibbett making that big move up into second position. He's racing these cars in real life, according to Adam Thompson. Our producer is Camden Hibbett this year. Only 15 years of age, I'm hearing, which is crazy. It shouldn't be a case that I'm commentating on people that are younger than me, Randall. But definitely looking very racy here.
Hey, Tom, I just wanted to come in here while we're on board here, or on with Camden Hibbett here. I did a little bit of math yesterday, which is really tough for me, but I got it done anyways.
Here we go.
And so Camden Hibbett and Andrew Gilliland, who is unfortunately out of the race at the moment, but their combined age still does not add up to how old I am. And let me give you a bit of a hint. I'm 30. So Camden Hibbett at 15 years old and Andrew Gilliland at 11.
Good grief. That's incredible. young drivers in the Spec-5 World Tour. I'm going to tell you now, I was sim racing at 13. I started, and I was not that good.
We've seen Camden Hibbett show wisdom beyond his years, race after race, and always fighting for the lead. So this kid's going places. I'll be keeping my eye on him in the MX-5 Cup cars in real life to see where he goes. And if he becomes a champion, I'm going to be one of the ones shouting the most that I was there commentating on his sim racing career before he ever got in a real car. I'll be the biggest Camden Hibbett fanboy.
The side-by-side action as they go on through. It's the 56 car in the lead of this train, and they're actually looking to make it 4 wide. It's like a car park. My word, Eugenio Pellicci just about getting through that unscathed at the moment. This is Mitchell Peak, Odis Adams Jr., Pellicci and Ronnie Coates with your open glass leader at the back of this train. And racy is probably the word to describe all of this as we go up into the carousel.
Yeah, if I'm Mitchell Peak, I see this train of cars behind me. I'm keeping an eye for that 31 windshield behind me. Make sure that he's not bump drafted. As we see, Eugenio Pellicci gets it wrong there on the exit of the carousel. Easy to do, pulls out in front of Sean Hayes here. I think we're going to see that he got out of the carousel just a little bit early here. We're going to see the run up to the carousel, big braking section. They get down onto it and then gets back to the throttle. Yeah, he just gets to the throttle a little bit early. The rear end starts to step out and around it goes and touches the rear to the barrier there. Not much damage. But then he pulls right out in front of Simon Foweather and Sean Hayes here. We're going to see a replay of them approaching the incident. And I doubt that they got through this clean. It looked like they were certainly on a trajectory for carnage. And yes, Simon Foweather just makes the wrong decision. He probably did not have a very good view of that car. As we have Camden
got to lead the race.
Lead.
Don't know how it happened or when it happened. We've got a replay to see when it happened and how it happened as well. Here is the replay. Then Camden Hibbett just behind your race leader, Mike Dam, up until this point. To the inside he went and onto the brakes. Just that he didn't brake into that corner.
Now that brake lights pretty quick.
His brake lights did not come on, and Mike Dam on the outside line had to have a dab of the brakes, and that allowed Hibbett to go on through. And you were talking, Randall, about how he's showing his wisdom through the years. And when you've got someone who's jumping into an MX-5 car when they're 15 years old, I have to say, you do find that they tend to be wise beyond their years. Because if you think about it, these guys have been racing when they're 13 years old for longer than me and you have been racing. I suppose, maybe not at my age, but with you being a little bit older than me.
Yeah, some of the drivers they're out here against have more than 13 years of driving experience, and they're able to make moves. It looks like we didn't get to see Mike Dam's exit out of the carousel whenever he got it a little wrong, or maybe he's playing possum a little bit, letting Camden go out in front and trying to save some fuel so he can have a faster pit stop. Now we see just what I told Mitchell to look out for. Here comes that 31 car. He's going to catch him at the end of this straightaway, most likely. And we might see a return favor of that bump draft gone awry at the end.
As Hibbett Motorsport says, Camden is only 13. I told Adam so, but anyway, we'll move on. I apologise about that. But at 13, even more impressive than
I was going to say, okay,
Randall.
I got it wrong. He's even younger, and he's about to drive an MX-5 in real life. So, yes, thank you. I can only assume is Camden's dad in the YouTube chat for correcting me, and just makes it even more unbelievable.
Yes.
And he's not the first of his kind that we've seen do this. The famous Elvis Rankin has moved on to real world racing, and he was routinely obliterating fields of older men in the MX-5. And something about these kids can really take to this car. We're seeing our first takers of the pit lane here in the form of Mitchell Peak and Ronnie Coates. Ronnie going to get that damage, that little bit of damage repaired, I would think. We'll see who comes out first.
Edgar Santinelli, in the meantime, got past Coimbra for 10th position. As we see Edgar, who didn't actually set a lap time in the qualifying session. Wasn't quite able to, has managed to recover up to 10th position and second place in the open class in his characteristically yellow number 57 car. And through he goes. 7/10 of a second that gap. We're seeing pit stops perhaps a lap earlier than we expected. Randall, when do you think these leaders are going to start to come into the pits? You'd think it would be a lap later, surely?
You think they may be able to go stretch it all the way into lap 4? With these cars and this lead breakaway, they're probably going to stretch it out as long as they can. They don't want to lose the draft with each other. So when you see the leader come in, expect to see the other two follow.
These top 3 inseparable as they have been for 2.5 laps now, or 17 minutes at this Nurburgring Nordschleife. And it's Camden Hibbett in the number 32 who leads the way at the moment. Mike Damp trying to regain that lead, but I get the sense that formation flying might just be the order of the day. I think now Hibbett has got to the lead of the race. He will do all that is in his power to stay there, and I'm not too sure Mike Damp is going to think it's within his best interest to try and make that move, but I will probably be proven wrong as they head up to the chicane. And there goes, showing his nose, Mike Damp trying to build that pressure, forces Hibbett to make a little bit of a mistake, and going deep is Camden Hibbett. It was good pressure building from Mike Damp, who now might just get a bit of a run out of this corner into the slipstream. The MX-5s hit what is not quite their VMAX, but very high in the gear ratios very, very quickly indeed.
We've not seen Camden in this situation very often where he's in the lead and having sustained pressure behind. So we have to keep an eye on, see how he handles it. But I'm gonna guess that he's perfectly comfortable right here. Probably not paying much attention to his mirror, just trying to hit his marks. The 2 cars behind are definitely going to be trying to fuel save. So I wouldn't expect any super bold moves coming out of Mike Damp or Michael Coates. Michael Coates is probably sitting in the catbird seat right now with fuel saving going on.
He is down into the double right-hander they go before they go down into what is almost an identical corner, and Hibbett is leading the way at the moment. It looks like Sean Hayes has had an issue. Here's Ronnie Coates. A replay with him. This can't be good news. Through they go. That 56 car further behind. Oh, that's the number 94. That would indeed be Sean Hayes. Let's have a look at what happened, Randall.
And the blue meanie here coming through top of the hill. This is a very tricky corner. I'm going to guess that maybe this gets a little... Nope, doesn't get too much of the curb. Doesn't get the curb at all. Has a bit of oversteer. Carries too much speed. The rear end steps out, and he takes heavy damage there on the barriers. He tries to get the car back around. Does a little bit more damage. Wisely holds the brakes as Ronnie Coates and Mitchell Peak come through, and then decides to reset the car.
We go back to this lead battle, and actually switch back to Ken Copeland, who's trying to get up into the top 4 despite being an open class car. It is still line of stern in the top 3, but this is ever so slightly closer. Here is Ken Copeland then. Barely ever see over the wheel in that picture. We're trying to make this move right now.
How's Ken doing so well when only his ears can see the TV screen?
Right now, as we're commenting, we hear the producer comment on the picture of his profile with the cat has taken the wheel. We see Ken Copeland doing a little bit of bump drafting there with Otis Adams Jr. And like I mentioned on the first lap with Michael Coates, that's way trickier than it appears. You cannot see your marks at all. You really got to trust the guy in front of you and use a bit of the force, as these guys are not too terribly far off from these leaders. So if anything starts happening with this lead pack, these 2 drivers are going to come back in contact. So Ken Copeland still has a really good shot for an overall podium here.
Mitchell Peak, who, if I'm right in saying, is your championship leader at the moment, not having such a great day at the Nürburgring, finding himself having to apply pressure to Ronnie Coates in the number 31, and no moves being made just yet for Mitchell. Seeing actually, as we approach 20 minutes to go in this race, Mitchell making a total hash of the carousel. That has lost him about 1.5 seconds. And the second you lose the toe in an MX-5 car, Randall, your job just gets so much more difficult with the top three still battling away it, as you can see.
Yeah, he's really going to have to buckle down to try to close that gap up before the big straightaway. But if he's within a second and a half, when he gets to that straightaway, you'll see that gap close back up. But he can't have any more mistakes. He needs to try to close that gap as much as possible. As we are back on board with this lead battle, they're all right now playing the waiting game, letting Camden lead, maybe burn up some extra fuel. These two behind are going to save his.
Oh, playing the waiting game.
A little bit wide there on after the drop. And Mike Dam shows his nose. I don't think he was really ever going to go for the move, but he definitely lets him know he's there.
Little is more dramatic than a chase at the Nurburgring. Potentially, only more dramatic is a crash at the Nurburgring. This is Eugenio Pellicci just getting it all crossed up on throttle and into the wall. Massive clonk on the left rear. That will hurt the suspension, no doubt. But back to this lead battle. Down the dotting out. This is going to get very, very tasty indeed. Camden Hibbett pulling out 0.4 of a second on Mike Dam as they go through the final sequence of corners at this Nurburgring Nordschleife onto that long back straight, the longest straight physically allowed to be an FIA certified racetrack, the dotting out. This is
It makes you wonder if that's the measuring stick they use to make the rule. They're like, well, we have to FIA certify the Nürburgring. So how long is that straight? Okay, nothing longer than that. So we see a bit of a bump draft coming here out of Ken Copeland, trying to catch this lead pack. These guys are not that far off.
I think. Oh, there was 600 of a second. I apologise. I probably scared Adam Thompson there. And I cut you off, Randall. So I do apologise about that. No, it's a bump draft between Mike Dam and Camden Hibbett. Let's see if he does finally make a move. Mike Dam up into what is not particularly a huge braking zone of the final couple of turns before the timing loop. He's not quite able to follow through. But I go back to let you finish the point you're making, Randall. Oh no, Adam jumping in. Oh, into the pits. Goes Hibbett.
Oh, Hibbett with a cagey move and catches Mike Dam sleeping a little bit. You see Michael Coates followed him in. Mike Dam's going to be in a world of hurt here, I think. This might be the end of Mike Dam's race. He's really going to have to set a quality pace lap here because he's not going to have any slipstream. And those two that just came into the pits are going to be able to draft with each other. Ooh, this could be a game changer.
That was a very, very late move for the pits, showing the maturity beyond his years you were perhaps talking about, Randall, earlier on. As Ruiz also comes into the pits, as Otis Adams Jr. also pits on that lap. He's now on pit exit. It looks like, though, Michael Coates got past Camden Hibbett in the pit lane. Camden Hibbett, by the way, with the fastest lap of the race with a 1:57.9. And there you go. Points in case. Camden Hibbett, a couple of seconds now in the rear of Michael Coates. Is that potentially a case of he took tyres and Michael did not? Or has he just had a slower pit stop?
Well, Michael Coates did not lead this race at all. He has been behind somebody or behind two cars the entire time, and it has been saving fuel. So he just took that much less fuel. Now, we see that Camden Hibbett's about 1.8 seconds back. He could close this gap up enough, but by the time they get to one of the straightaways, just a little bit of a vestige of slipstream will be there, and he'll be able to come back in contact by the time they get to Dottinger Ho. So Michael Coates not completely gone away from Camden Hibbett yet, but we see the gap's already closed up by about 1/10. So Camden's still going to be there at the end of this race to fight for the win.
As Andrew Gilliland, the number 16, says, let's go Camden. Andrew, unfortunately, out of this race earlier on. I don't think he actually was able to take the start in the end. Neither was pole sitter Daniel Williams, who has made rather a cameo in the Spec-5 World Tour. His debut starting as well as it physically could have, and then ending rather abruptly. Martin has just got past Coimbra for 11th position. That's in the 149 car, and they're side by side here for 6th. It's going to be Mitchell Peak trying to attack Odys Adams Jr. and Ronnie Coates. On the inside is Odys Adams Jr. and there goes through Mitchell Peak as well into 6th position. It was a very, very opportunistic move, but it was a move that he made absolutely perfectly.
As we see, now that Otis has taken his pit stop, he's now back behind Ronnie Coates and Mitchell Peak. He's let those two through. I don't know if he took tires or not, so maybe he's struggling a little bit with cold tires. But once he got a little bit offline, he kind of just surrendered the spot to these two, and now he's going to be in a good position to just maintain contact, and hopefully they can bring him back up towards the front.
We'll wait and see. But these three staying line of stern for the time being. A brief skirmish. Ken Coppelin is in the lead of the race in the open class. 2nd position overall. We just owe us a pit stop. We're going to keep an eye on Afton, who sits down in 8th position in that number 77 car, because Ken Coppelin, if he's not able to benefit from a strong in-lap here, we assume this is going to be his in-lap with about 3 laps, well 2 laps now left in, no 3 laps indeed, we've got on lap 4. It might get a little bit nasty for him.
And he and Mike Dam both will definitely have to pit this time by. There's no way to save enough fuel to stretch that out for a 5th lap, so they'll definitely be in. Camden has closed that gap up now to a 2nd on this long uphill climb, so it had just enough slipstream to start clawing his way back. So by the time they get to Dottinger, they'll be right there back on the bumper of Michael Coates, and we'll be watching for Mike Dam to come out of the pits to see if he comes out in front of or behind this pair.
This is nervous stuff. He's got about a 30-second gap at the moment. So Mike Coates, whether he's going to be able to hold on to that through the pit stop phase, we're not too sure. This is that battle once more, as Ronnie Coates is now under a lot of pressure from your championship leader, Mitchell Peak, in the number 56 car. Can he pull to the outside? They're so close, bump drafting each other through as we go up into what I believe will be the carousel in just a moment's time. Left-hander, not a braking zone. You're not even thinking about the brakes at this stage of the Nurburgring Nordschleife, but there's a very heavy braking zone coming up where potentially Mitchell Peak will try and make this move to get himself up into 5th position. Coates is going to have to go defensive surely. Here's the braking zone. No doing just yet for either of them, but the carousel corner coming up, as you see at the top of your picture. There is Camden Hibbett, who's now caught up to Michael Coates. 0.2 of a second, 1/10 of a second make that as they go through the carousel, and it's a mistake from Michael Coates in a move that is potentially going to define the way that this race continues on into the last 15 minutes. Michael Coates goes straight on at the carousel, Randall.
Yeah, you just got it a little bit wrong, and once you're out of the carousel, you're done. You just got to hold on for dear life and keep the car out of the wall. But he's still within slipstream range, so Camden Hibbett will not be able to run away. But this is good news for Mike Dam, as now we see these 3 cars closing in. This could become a 6-way fight for the lead. We're watching Mike Dam. He's really hanging it out there. He is on an absolute flyer right now, as we see that over the past quarter of a lap or so, he's gapped Ken Copeland by about nearly 2 seconds, about 1.8 seconds over this past quarter of a lap. So he is out there absolutely flying. Very little fuel left in this car. Definitely setting a quality pace lap. I wouldn't be surprised if we see him go purple here, even when he comes into the pit lane.
7:57 is the pace set by Camden Hibbett just a couple of laps ago. That was with the traffic to keep in mind. This is solo flying for Mike Dam, almost as if he would in qualifying. He hasn't got another person ahead of him for about 15 kilometers.
I'm telling you, let me tell you, I'm looking at these pit lane times, and the gap that he has right now over Michael Coates and Camden Hibbett is at about 33 seconds. Total pit lane time for Camden Hibbett was 37.88. Michael Coates was 35.3. He's gonna come out right with these other drivers.
This is going to be on the bubble. Mike Dam owes us a pit stop. We expect him to be into the pits this lap. Here is your pit lane time on your timing monitor on the left-hand side of your screen. 33 to 36 seconds is what we are looking at. What can Mike Dam do into the pit lane? He's going to have to take on more fuel than the other guys, of course, because he's going to have been out on the circuit in green flag conditions for longer. Here he goes through to the end of the Dottinger Hauer, 128 mile an hour, maybe? No, 25 as he goes up the hill. Edgar Sancinelli is into the pits and presumably out of the race, as is Casey, who is displaying us out on my time monitor. We'll see it in a moment, but right now this is where the race is going to be made or broken. It's 600th of a second between Hibbett and Coates as they are now on to the Dottinger Hauer. Ken Coplin should be into the pits on this lap as well. We're looking at race leader Mike Dam, who is in the pits right now, in the box, waiting to go again. You can see on the track map this 32 and the 213 out into the final corner here. What can Mike Dam do? There he goes. He's back out, and it's not been in a great deal of time at all. Through on the inside. Can Mike Dam get out ahead? It looks like he can. Quite a margin. You were always waiting to see him appear out the pit lane. You didn't need to. He was already disappeared down the road. 2.8 seconds.
This is a good enough gap to not give any slipstream. So right now, what he needs is an absolutely perfect outlap here. Don't make any mistakes, because you make one little slip, you're going to bring Camden Hibbett into slipstream range. Right now, as it stands, though, he has got enough of a gap that we're watching it slowly dwindle already. So, can Mike Dam keep this lap nice and clean? Can Camden Hibbett, whose in-lap time was 2 seconds or 1.1 seconds faster than Mike Dam's, this could get interesting really quickly. I suspect Camden Hibbett has really got his ears pinned back and is absolutely flying trying to catch this 93, as we're going to see a replay of Edgar Sancinelli's untimely demise. We see him coming out of YouTube corner, and that tricky left-hander coming up the hill gets it a little bit wide out into the marbles, and it slides around on him, and he make heavy contact with the wall. Then he tries to get it going back in the right direction, and you can see that left front wheel is just not attached properly anymore. So he tries to get it going back again, and it's just going to reset to the pits.
Frustrating for Edgar Sancinelli, who is now presumably out of the running for this race. They're not quite officially just yet. Camden Hibbett has got to drive the 10 minutes of his life. It will probably be one more lap when we get to the line for Camden Hibbett to try and find 2.6 seconds and an overtake on Mike Dam. Of course, Michael Coates is trying to get himself up into second position as well. But we have to wait and see.
Right now, Camden absolutely needs every bit of help he can get. He does not want Michael Coates to fight with him. Michael Coates, very privy to this situation, is not going to fight him, and in fact is going to try to bump draft him as often as possible around this lap to try to close that gap up as much as they can. Right now, it's still sitting at 2.75 seconds, so Mike Dam's able to stretch it back out after that early sector where Camden was starting to show a little bit of speed. As it's getting even bigger, as it's creeping over 3 seconds now, Mike Dam has really found his pace. So, oh, did he get into the barrier there? He got a little bit wide there on that very tight double apex right-hander. I thought I heard a little bit of a car on metal there. Maybe got a little touch of that barrier. That gap staying so. Oh, there we go. Mike Dam
is into the wall, and it's the race leader, and it's Mike Dam, who has done all the hard work and had all his hard work undone. They call this place the Green Hell for a reason, and that is point in case right there. Camden Hibbett, who saw his chances at a race win all but evaporate about a lap ago, now inherits the lead of this race, but has got 0.3 of a second to Michael Coates behind. Here's Ronnie Coates. He's managed to find himself up into third position. Mike Dam has thrown it all away. And again, he's parked it.
He's parked it probably just out of dejection. Like, oh, you got to feel bad for Mike Dam. That's twice this season that we've seen him make an unforced error from the lead and throw a race away. That tricky right-hander into that very slow left-hander. I wonder if maybe he had taken two tires and was just suffering a little bit from cold tires in that section, and it got the best of him. We saw him get heavily into that curb, so he was just carrying a little bit too much speed on entry there. He was really trying to push to try to keep that gap open so that there wasn't slipstream, and now we have a two-way fight for this win. Michael Coates and Camden Hibbett now just trying to keep that gap to Ronnie Coates big enough so that he can't be in this picture. We see now they're coming through this very, very fast uphill section. Made it through Courage Corner, the tight corner here, down to second gear, going to make the run up to the carousel. And it's really just a matter of nerves now. Neither one of these drivers needs to make a mistake. And we'll see an absolute knife fight coming down the straightaway on the last lap as long as they can maintain this gap.
Michael Coates with the most powerful slipstream in most of racing in these MX-5 cars. Camden Hibbett with a lot of pressure on his young shoulders into the last 20 kilometres and a bit of this race. Up to sector 3 they go, and it's Hibbett who holds on right now. We've got 2.5 minutes to go in this race, and dare I say it, I apologise, we've got about 8 minutes left in this race. I've got my AMS hat on there, Randall. But the next lap, next time by, I should say, should be the final lap here. So Camden Hibbett has got...
Sorry, it looks like we're having a little bit of connection issues there with Camden Hibbett, and we lost him in the trees for a second, and I thought for sure that he was in the barrier. We saw another issue with the leader. But no, just a little bit of connection issues. And as much as it spooked us up here in the booth, I bet Michael Coates' eyes are as big as saucers right now, trying to wonder what's going on with Camden ahead of him.
It's both worry and eagerness from Michael Coates, and I think it's no coincidence that we now see him backing off, jumping through into the right hand as they go. Camden Hibbett with a couple of network issues. Is it going to unravel his race? Here he goes again, flashing around this racetrack. I think this is a persistent issue. And if it is a persistent issue, oh dear, this could turn very ugly very quickly.
I think we can hear Camden yelling at his parents to get off the internet. He's trying to win a race. Come on, Dad, get off the internet. You can stream that later. I got a race to win. As it seems to have settled out now, Michael Coates still is in contact, so we'll see them get back together here as they come to take the white flag. And
why would you say that on a broadcast?
I like to live dangerously, Tom.
Well, Camden Hibbett, if he doesn't win this race because of network issues, has got one man to name, and Ken Coplin has had an incident by the sounds of it. I saw a red flash next to his name, and as well as Ken has had an incident. He's led every single lap of this race in the open division, and now has to sort of doggedly reset his car. Let's have a look at what happened to Mitchell Peak and then Ken Coplin. Whether it was the same incident or different matters, I'm not too sure. Onto the curb he goes, spins around, hits the wall, and that's disappointment for the championship leader. Ken seemed to be okay through the second carousel, and in fact he wasn't, as he jumped up onto it and hit the wall. Now can he hold it on for another lap?
He's a little bit wide there in that second carousel, maybe suffering from a bit of that rubberneck. As we see now, it's Michael Coates in the lead. Maybe we can get a replay of this pass. I suspect he went for the move down the straightaway, got it done. I think maybe it was a little bit too early. He's put Camden in a really good position for a last lap overtake here.
Yes, it was the move that we missed. 213 car, Michael Coates through into the lead of this race. 20.8 kilometres left at the Nurburgring Nordschleife to try and decide whether it's going to be Michael Coates or Camden Hibbett who wins this race, or potentially someone else throwing their hat into the ring. Now, how does Camden play this, Randall? He's got one lap to go. Plenty of overtaking opportunities throughout the course of this lap. It would dictate, logically, to wait until that final corner. But then you fear leaving it a little bit too late.
Now, if I'm in Camden Hibbett, I know what I would do if I'm in Michael Coates' shoes. So I'm going to give Camden a little bit of an unsolicited advice here. Once you start to approach that carousel, give him a little bit of space, because he might try a little bit of gamesmanship and run the top of the carousel to let Camden by so that he has the slipstream at the end of the lap. And if that's what he does, and you're Camden Hibbett, you've given him a little bit of room. You see it coming. You just follow him up there up top. Don't let him gift you the lead so that he can get it back there right at the end.
We'll wait and see. Or is Camden Hibbett rather more likely to get this done early? Into the hairpin we go. He shows his nose, making sure that Michael Coates knows that he is there and always ready to pounce. No moves just yet, though, as they stay line of stern through down the hill, flat out section of the racetrack, making sure that they are practically inseparable up into a heavy braking zone. The chicane, still no moves being made, and the drivers both driving just that little bit more conservatively. A little bit deep from Michael Coates, as we now see Martin trying to make a move for a moment. Coates did go a little bit deep into that corner, you know, and it's allowed Camden Hibbett just that little bit more of an opportunity to try and find a way through.
As I'm hearing in my ear, Gareth Brocklesby had to come back into pit lane for a splash and go. Did not quite have enough fuel in that car. Now, as he's back out onto the track, as he's coming out of pit exit now, should be able to go for the rest of this lap. And is going to be running the last of the runners in the Pro Division, still ahead of Edgar Sancinelli and Andrew Kosick, who we're going to jump back to right now for our... Oh, looks like Lee Martin has gotten past him here.
Oh, deep goes Michael Coates. Lee Martin got past Jerry DiPiero is what we're trying to get to, but slightly deep goes Michael Coates into fence from Camden Hibbett, who now sits 2/10 of a second behind. Through into the double left-hander they go. It's again slightly difficult for Michael Coates, who's struggling with that car at the moment. He's not got a lot of grip in that Mazda MX-5. And here he goes. There's a chance as he's slow. Is he running out of fuel? Camden Hibbett doesn't want to make the move. He doesn't want to make the move just yet, and they're both going to be slow. It's a little bit of gamesmanship towards the end of this race. 1 minute until the checkered flag officially flies. Michael Coates struggling along in the lead of this race and on the final lap. The lead of this race is the only thing he can hold on to at the moment. There's a positive. He's doing 80 miles an hour as they come around up to 100 now. He wants to let Camden Hibbett through, and Camden Hibbett doesn't want to go through.
Yeah, I think that he had that bit of a moment and tried to use it as a fake out move to say, "Oh, I've got trouble." And Camden was having none of it. If now he's going to push him. If you're not going to go, I'm just going to push you up this straightaway. We'll get there eventually. Don't worry, the pass is coming. Just not when you want it.
As looking to the inside is Camden Hibbett, but it was more a case of how the road works. I don't think he wanted to show his nose at that particular corner, just always reminding as if the bump drafting wasn't enough, that he is indeed there and ready to pounce. Defending the inside is Michael Coates. He doesn't need to defend this inside. And now up to the carousel. What are they going to do into this corner? Does Michael Coates do a little bit of gamesmanship? Duck to the outside, try and force Camden Hibbett to go through. No, he takes the carousel like a normal person. Camden got a little bit loose, and it's pressure at the moment. It's an absolute pressure cooker as Mitchell Peake and Ronnie Coates are having a battle further back, but we stay with this for the time being because we've got about half a lap left at the Nurburgring, Randall, and I think this is going to be a last corner dash.
It's going to be, we're going to have to watch to see when Camden decides to make the move on the back straightaway, because he needs to go to get around him early enough to complete the pass before the S's to not give him a chance to get it back. But if he goes too early, Michael Coates can just slipstream him right back and be there alongside of him when he gets to the S's. So he's really going to have to time this move out well. We may see him give him just a little bit of space as they approach the little carousel near the end of the lap, so he gets a good run and doesn't give him a chance to pass him back.
Tyres squeal, just that little bit of slip angle being used wonderfully by both Camden Hibbett and Michael Coates. It's onto the gravel. It won't be a huge moment for him. Plenty of time to make this back up. But is it a sign that he's starting to slightly buckle under this pressure of this race win looming over his head? We've only got just a few corners to go now of this Nurburgring Nordschleife. I say a few corners to go, it's still more than most laps. But Randall, McGrew, how do you call this one?
I don't think we're done with the gamesmanship yet either. We still have that little carousel to come, and maybe Michael Coates is going to have a little bit of a wide line through there on accident. We'll see. I don't think the gamesmanship is completely done yet, but this is this is the race right now. This is the end.
As wide goes Michael Coates and Camden Hibbett. Now with one straight to go, one more corner before we get to the dotting at Howard. This is the race right here. 47 minutes in all of racing around the Nurburgring Nordschleife, and Camden Hibbett is 4/10 of a second away from victory. Michael Coates in the lead of the race, but it's a good exit from Hibbett in the 32 car. Here he goes to the inside. Goes Michael Coates. He is not going to give Hibbett an inch, but Hibbett is so fast in the slipstream. Here he goes, looking for the move on Michael Coates. To the outside line they go, and into the lead goes Camden Hibbett on the final lap of the race, on the final straight of the final lap, and now he has to turn his attack into the fence as we go into the final braking zone, weaving across the circuit to try and fend off Michael Coates, who is charging in the 2-1-3. Here comes the counter attack down into the final corner, side by side. Hibbett is just ever so slightly further back, and one more braking zone to go. Hibbett 400th of a second behind Michael Coates. To the outside he goes now. Who can brake later? Almost pushing each other through this section of the race car. Here goes Hibbett. Down the inside he goes to win the race. Michael Coates on the final corner by 0.3 of a second. Camden Hibbett at 13 years old wins at the Nürburgring. My word.
An absolute veteran move there at the end. He gets that clear call and lets the car drift out, as we're watching now. Ronnie Coates and Mitchell Peak repeat the encounter as Mitchell gets up onto the curb. We're going to see another race to the braking zone here. Who's going to be the last of the late breakers? Mitchell Peak drives out a little bit. Unlike Camden Hibbett, he did not have the clear call and makes contact with Ronnie Coates once again as they come across the line in 4th and 5th. Otis Adams is going to be on that third step of the podium, and he was not very hopeful for this race. So a really great finish for Otis Adams, coming up from P8 to P3.
What a win from Camden Hibbett, and what a win from Ken Coplin, dragging his wounded MX-5 to a dominant open class victory in the end, as we've got the backmarker salute. Randall McGrew.
We do this every race. We try to jump back to the back markers, and right now we're looking at Andrew Kosick, who is about 6 seconds behind Edgar Sancinelli. Not had the greatest race. We saw lap 1 issues out of Andrew. He's still carrying a little bit of damage on that car, but still out here turning laps. Gonna bring it home in P19. We saw Edgar Sancinelli with a really bad incident after YouTube corner. Gentlemen, we salute you. Thank you for coming out to race. Even though it was not the greatest race for you two, you're still out here driving and bringing it home.
Replay of Edgar Sancinelli not appearing on my screen, but maybe you can enlighten us, Randall.
That left-hander before the little carousel, he's just off into the gravel trap, running a little bit wide, as now he's bringing it around on his final lap. He'd be eager to see Nürburgring in his mirror after this race.
Quite a fine driver is Edgar Sancinelli in the open class. Not the date he expected here, as Bellici will come across the line 15th in a moment. Hayes 16th, and then Brocklesby in 17th. He did not. He ran out of fuel, I should say, on the previous lap. Had to come into the pits and has gone out to do his final lap. Still up 6 positions from his start. Here is Edgar Sancinelli then in the number 57 car. Rather less dramatically than Hibbett and Coates. Up to the line, 0.3, the winning margin for what it's worth. Sancinelli rounding out a rather disappointing day, and that is cruel Crawl,
our
crawl work.
producer kicking a man while he's down already. He's telling Edgar to stick to the Mustangs. Edgar, you're doing just fine. Don't listen to this chump. As he comes through the final corner here and across the line, bringing it home 18th, still up 7 positions from where he started in 25th as he's wiggling the car across the track in celebration. So he did not set a qualifying time, started at the rear of the field. Andrew Cossack coming home 19th, 1 spot down after some troubles on lap 1. And we see John Casey, another back marker, 1 lap down. We saw him have some struggles very early on in the race, and it looks like he's got a lot of damage on that car. So he has been struggling all night, comes home in 21st.
Here are your race results for Spec-5 World Tour at the Nurburgring. Camden Hibbett wins in dramatic fashion from Michael Coates by 0.3 of a second. Odis Adams Jr. rounds out the pro class and overall podium with championship leader Mitchell Peake only able to get up to 4th. Ronnie Coates finishes behind him only by another 0.2 of a second in 5th. Ken Coplin wins in the open class with Sean Ruiz in 7th. Jordy Fike is in 8th. Tom Afton and Paolo Coimbra make up the rest of the open podium with Ryan Sablisky in 11th in a pro car. It's Orlando Herrell in 12th with Lee Martin in 13th. Jerry Di Piero, Eugenio Pellicci, Sean Hayes and Brocklesby Sanchinelli round out our first page of results. One more to come, and it's quite a few retirements, I'm afraid to say. It's Andy Koshik, who did finish in the end. Charles Vaccaro not taking the flag. John Casey did. In fact, sorry, the last 2 did take the flag. But Mike Dam, Simon Foweather, Jose Gonzalez, Rui Coimbra, Daniel Williams not taking the start, nor was Andrew Gilliland, but all of them, regardless, not being classified. Mike Dam probably the most notable of them all, as well as Daniel Williams, both having a clear shot at winning this race. Michael not taking the start. Daniel not taking the start, I apologise. And Michael crashing out of the race in what is, again, dramatic fashion. We're going to drag some drivers in. Randall and McGrew. And first of all, I think it's only appropriate to speak to Camden Hibbett. Camden, it was a close race there. And in fact, it couldn't have got much closer. Final lap overtake, final corner overtake for the win. That must have been one of your best wins.
Yeah, it was a wild race. First off, congrats to Michael Coates. He had great pace all week. I have to thank him a lot. Also, he actually helped me with my pace earlier. This was my first ever race on the mountain. It was I guess this isn't the mountain. This is the ring. That's Bathurst. Sorry about that. But yeah, this was my first race at Nurburgring. It's a workout, man. It's mentally, physically. I mean, 154 turns is in 8 minutes is a lot. But yeah, really awesome race. I had my plan figured out, like with 2 to go, and I didn't think he was going to be able to get back past me on the final backstretch, but that's the way it goes. And yeah, I apologize a little bit for pushing him off a little bit there in the final corner, but I mean, it's racing. Hey there, Michael.
Hey there. Good race, Camden. Good
Yeah,
good
you
race.
as well.
You oh, go ahead. Sorry, I'm sorry.
Sorry, Michael. I was going to say you fell short at the end there, but how did you see the race?
Really, I kind of feel like I really let myself down in the pits. I put I overfueled by quite a bit, and it just kind of feel like it cost me. But really, I tried to get on the inside there on the final stretch, but Camden covered it pretty well, and I tried to send it around the outside. But I knew if I pushed much harder, I was probably going to put it in the wall and risk everything anyways. So best to just accept second place, unfortunately.
Well, Michael, Adam Thompson here in the production booth. You say you overfueled into the pits, and this would be a question, I guess, now for Camden as well. You got out in front of Camden, I believe, and then Camden was able to track you back down. But if I'm correct, and I may not be, I believe. What happened to you in the pits then, Camden?
I don't want to make excuses. Definitely, I did not have Le Mans to practice, which I think was a big thing, and I know exactly what I did now. I should have just trusted my gut and knew that there was going to be 6 laps total. I used crew chief for my fuel, and normally I have it set to about another half a lap of fuel. Well, another half a lap here is another half a gallon, which is 3, 4, 5 seconds. I just didn't think it through very well. So yeah, I thought my pit stop was bad. I thought Michael's was pretty good. So who knows here?
I want to jump in here real quick, Camden. I have to applaud you on your very, very cagey last moment dive into the pit lane. I think you caught Mike Dam sleeping. You caught me by surprise even, and I was watching for the leader to come in, and that was the latest move I've ever seen in a very tight pit entry. You just absolutely nailed it. So I got to congratulate you.
Yeah, thanks. I didn't know if I was gonna make it myself. Honestly, it was really close to hitting that tire barrier on the entry. But I knew I had to push. I knew my pit stops are not very strong, as you can probably tell. So I knew I needed to push and get everything I could. This is a great race for me. I did not have very high expectations coming into this. I'm gonna be honest. Michael, thanks again for your help this week. It's been an awesome week, and now that I learned the track, it's a really awesome track to drive as well.
Hang on, Camden. Here's the thing, man. You got to quit getting your pit strats from Randall McGrew, and your pit stops make it a little bit better.
Yeah, I should probably stop listening to him. It'd probably be advised.
Yeah, anything that I say for pit strategy, do the exact opposite, and you're probably in a good spot.
Sounds good. Yeah. Do you have a minute to thank a couple people? Is that okay?
Go for it.
Yeah. I want to just thank my my mom and dad. My dad's been doing a ton of work on the Spec Miata side in real life. My mom's been there every race week in real life, so it's really cool. Huge thanks to David Cook, Kevin King, my real life coach Chris Noons. You're helping me get better every other week, so thanks, Chris. Yeah, congrats to Michael on the great pace. Mike Dam had great pace as well. It's a shame to see him unfortunately get taken out. Thanks to you guys, obviously. You guys do a great job every week with the broadcast. Thanks to the Spec-5 admins. Yeah, looking forward to next week for Ilp Island. One last season. Let's see if we can get the double here.
Thank you guys for joining us. Michael, have you got anyone that you'd like to shout out before we drag Ken in?
I'd just like to thank all the guys in the league for putting on a great show every week and all the respectful racing. I'd like to thank you guys for putting on a great show as well. I'm looking forward to watching it after we get off here. And yeah, just thanks to everybody. Camden, great race. I mean, I was gonna say too, I felt real bad. Mike Dam, got taken out there in that one corner. I was looking forward to hopefully me and Camden being able to track him down and put on a real good show 3 wide. But hey. Sometimes it just doesn't work out, especially at this track.
Michael, one question for you I've got. We've obviously been covering Spec-5 for a couple seasons now, and I don't take this the wrong way, but you've been a solid top-tier mid-pack driver. Now, coming into this season, you've gotten much quicker and much more consistent. What's the secret?
I mean, I always felt like I was, on that pace. I guess I've been focusing a lot more just on the MX-5 lately, just league racing versus I do a lot of hopping around like with F3. That's a lot of why my I rating is probably so low for what it's worth comparatively to everyone else. But that's probably what it's. I think it's always kind of been there. It's just kind of finally hitting my stride. I know one of these weeks, guys, I'm gonna get that W. One of these weeks.
Well, you gotta stop letting Camden do some nasty slide jobs on you, and I think you might be able to get her done.
We'll see. I'm sure we'll keep putting on a good show either way, as long as it's a good race. I mean, hey, that's what it's all about. It was a good rush at the end there, even if I was ready to rage quit for a second.
Yeah, you guys absolutely did put on a great show tonight. Thank you guys so much for joining us, and we look forward to maybe talking to you as a winner sometime soon here, Michael.
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you much.
Cheers, guys. That was Camden Hibbett and Michael Coates, your top 2 in the overall classifications and the pro standings. Of course, now a man who, dominated in the open class, even if there was a slightly hairy moment towards the end there. Ken Coplin Ken, I'm going to ask you first of all about the incident that you had, and then how you held onto that car in the end to still win.
Are you talking about the second to last lap?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a little bit of either brain fade or brake fade. I'll let the audience figure that one out. But yeah, just didn't throw it in, didn't hit the apex at all. Old tires, felt it start to push, and just thought, I hate this corner so much. The last lap was kind of a nightmare. My steering was about 90 degrees to the left, which honestly wasn't too bad once I realized that I could still turn at speed either way. I was like, okay, maybe I can keep this out in front of Sean. Until I got to the final back straight and I realized he was taking like a full second off of me every probably 5 or 6 seconds, it felt like. And that was just the longest straightaway in my life. But everything else was just trying to manage the distance, keep it safe and finish.
And in terms of the race as a whole, incredible pace for an open class car, almost up onto the overall podium. I mean, obviously setting your sights on the championship this year, which you have the lead of. You also may be setting your sights just sort of quietly on a race win overall.
Oh, I mean, would I take it? Yes. The guys up front in this league have some outstanding pace. So I usually try to not aim my sights too high. My goal today was just to qualify fast, try and get out in front because I was scared to death of the first lap incidents. Manage that. So from there, it was just find a friend and don't die. I'll give myself kind of 2 out of 3 on that since I kind of tried to die towards the tail end of things. But overall, it was a really good race. I was just trying to maximize points, go as fast as I can, and latch on to somebody faster than me. That worked really well for a while with Odyssey. And then he pitted in front of me, and I didn't have time to react to it. So I kind of got hung out on that one. But otherwise, it was a really good race. Kind of worked to plan. Unfortunate for Jose, he's the main competition I'm thinking about points wise, and I think my understanding is he didn't have too fun of a race. So condolences to him, but it's been a fun season so far. But trying to keep my sights realistic. If a race win comes, I won't deny it, but got to finish first.
And finally, before we let you go, Ken, is there anyone you'd like to shout out on the broadcast?
Yeah, absolutely. First off, you guys, week to week, y'all do an awesome broadcast. It's a ton of fun. You give our family and friends opportunities to kind of watch us sit here and nerd out. So thank you so much for that. As always, awesome job. Another shout out to the Spec-5 guys. So all the admins, all the IRT guys, just the people that put in all the hours outside of racing to kind of keep that league going. They again give us the opportunities to look forward to Thursdays, even if they are a little bit stressful. And otherwise, just all the viewers, family, friends, and everyone else. Thanks for watching. Y'all make it worthwhile. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ken, for joining us.
Hang on, Kenneth. Nope. Got to get you back in here, Kenneth. I just want to say, first time we've had you here in the broadcast booth, and you've got a very smooth, silky radio voice. So congratulations to you and your voice.
Well, thank you. That's actually not the first time someone said radio voice when they were talking about it. Although I was in Iraq in the middle of a deployment, managing the music for some Joes overseas. So thank you so much.
Well, no problem. And thank you for your service.
Yep. Y'all have a good one.
Thank you, Ken, for real this time. And before we go over to Randall for the final thoughts on this race, we've got to talk about our upcoming broadcasts here on Slow Motion Broadcasting, because it is, as ever, a packed schedule over the next week. Our next broadcast is on Sunday, March the 12th, 8:10 p.m. Eastern Time. It's Cross Series League Racing at Charlotte.
I got a quick cut in here. Okay. But one thing, we're looking at these upcoming broadcasts. If you want to see the producer and the owner of Slow Motion Broadcasting beat the living crap out of the admin of Slow Motion Broadcasting and the admin of American Muscle Series and the commentator for Slow Motion Broadcasting, also known as Randall McGrew, come watch XSLR on Sunday night.
We'll see if I can make it more than one lap this time.
Well, Randall McGrew, a very achieved GT3 driver in the XTC, which Adam Thompson failed to win last season. Anyway, American Muscle Series, Tuesday, March the 14th, 9:10 p.m. Eastern Time. That's in the Mustang FR500s at Road Atlanta. That will be myself and Alex Andersen, providing that Alex Andersen, of course, feels a little bit better. We're wishing him well indeed. He'll also be back on Thursday, March the 16th at 9:15 p.m. Eastern Time, the Mazda MX-5s. This very series, Spec-5 World Tour at Phillip Island. Now, Randall, incredible race. We suggested that it was actually going to be one of the more boring ones on the calendar, but it turned out to be an absolute cracker.
Yeah, very exciting finish, and you really got to give your condolences to Michael Coates. It looked like he was going to have that win there right at the end. Looked like he was going to pass back Camden, and Camden just the perfect slide job, like Adam described it, coming up to the last couple corners. Just absolutely, as soon as he got that clear call, was able to slide across the track. And like I said during the broadcast, wisdom beyond his years, and has been able to bring home his first win. Or not his first win, but a big win here at the Nurburgring.
A big win indeed. We'll look forward to see how he gets on in the real world of racing this year as well. But anyway, thank you all very much for watching this Spec-5 World Tour race from the Nurburgring. I've been Tom Dillon. Randall McGrew has been in the other chair this evening, and Adam Thompson has been on production. Anyway, thank you all very much for watching, and we'll see you all later. Good night.
Not so, Patrick. do we describe this for everybody, Rob?
What?
You
What?
describe it. You describe it. I
What?
do enough talking.
I think any car's dead in iRacing. I think it's gone.
Oh, it's definitely. I agree. It's not going to survive much. But I still think we'll find opportunities to race it, just not as fruitful as before. Some of them just want to make. What's the thing? Like that guy wanted to make like dolls out of Tyler's hair, but then there's just other guys who are just like. He did. He would say weird things to Tyler, man. Like he was a strange guy. And then like other guys would just show up and nowhere. He's like,
I
"Oh,
just need to-
we never met you? Sure, come race this 24 with us." And then you just jump in the car and wreck us out in a lap and be like, "Okay, never see you again."
Yeah, that
Like,
was
okay. Well, better luck next year, I guess.
that was the guy from